Hey guys, hope you're well. Got another court report, of course, about the latest development with DOA. Not a lot happened today, so won't even really use the notes because there isn't a lot to talk about, but let's start with the lead. He got a continuance, unsurprisingly. So that's essentially all that happened. He did plead. Now he has pled. There are two separate cases. They're his felony cases and his misdemeanor cases. So he today pleaded not guilty in the additional case. Before, there was one case where he pleaded not guilty. This time he has pleaded not guilty in both cases. And it was kind of bizarre because his hearings were his hearings were scheduled at the same time. So it's tough to juggle them, but he was able, and I was able as well, to make both of those hearings. He did remark that for the first one, which was the felony case, that he wanted to represent himself. He kind of felt like the court-appointed district attorney doesn't simply have the time to look at all the discovery. There was quite a bit of discovery that was needed that the prosecutors literally essentially gave to the court-appointed attorney that morning. So there's pages upon pages of discovery to look through. Probably a lot that will put Scientology on the spot and not particularly look good for them. But there was no time to do that, and he really wanted to find somebody who could really chew on all of this and who has time to devote outside of the court hours to really try to focus on his case. So for that hearing, he was going at it alone. The judge did say, "Are you sure you want to do that?" He said yes. The judge did remind him, for all those that are curious, in the total amount of years he is looking at double digits in terms of maximum possible jail time. So at least over 10 years. Although, of course, when you look at the reality, that's probably winnowed down to probably a maximum of 6 months or something like that. So that's probably more realistically what he's looking for. But that's, of course, if he is declared guilty and doesn't take any sort of plea. Now, it should be remarked that Scott is not planning on representing himself for the entire time. He does want to connect with Shaheen Mansouri, but you have to realize that payment logistics of this. Are you going to pay Shaheen Mansouri, that's the attorney that helped get Josiah off completely and get Josiah's charges off, so he's been very effective. But are you going to pay Shaheen Mansouri for these largely inconsequential hearings that will almost guaranteed result in a continuance? They don't have a lot of meaning. So for those being critical, saying it's clear he won't get his attorney, this is a waste of money, that's not the case at all. But he has to be very careful, because if Mansouri showed up for 3 of these preliminary hearings, DOA could be looking at $60,000 instead of perhaps a more reasonable $30,000. So all of these little hearings add up, and DOA is certainly competent enough to be able to handle himself with these early things. Once the thick of the trial starts, then yes, he'll probably need an attorney. But timing is everything. And also, if you have a passionate court-appointed attorney helping with the preliminary cases, then you're even in a better situation. So I should talk about DOA went in alone for the felony case so far, but for the other hearing in the misdemeanor case, DOA connected with a pretty on-the-ball court-appointed attorney. And I said there were no notes, but I'll give her name in case anybody is interested. I believe it was Sophia Newhouse would be the name. So let me just double check that in case anybody is interested. Yeah, Sophia Newhouse is the attorney. So she seemed pretty passionate and seemed pretty eager to want to defend this case. You also have to analyze how much investment will these court-appointed attorneys put forth. The first one that DOA connected with on the felony situation, that person did not seem very invested and didn't seem like there might have been a real reason to go to trial. I think he was probably eager to look at a plea. The other attorney, however, thought that this could kind of be a sexy case. This is a case about your amendment rights, about your civil rights, about freedom of speech. So it's an unusual one, and it's different, and it's kind of, if you're looking at a career perhaps as a civil rights attorney in the future, it's a good one to focus on and try to get a win. So the attorney herself thought that Scott DOA should go to trial, and she kind of felt like, with the jury looking at Scientology as kind of, Scientology are kind of known as villains in a lot of senses, even though they're on the prosecuting side, the attorney will be a lot more sympathetic to Scott's civil rights and kind of seeing him as somebody, which I think is pretty accurate. A lot of people have said this as well, that kind of see Scott as somebody being targeted because of his active and effective protesting against the Church of Scientology. The only way that Scientology could really do that is to violate the civil rights of the protesters. So an attorney actually sees this and sees that a jury will be sympathetic. Scott hasn't asked for that. He hasn't had the opportunity to, but Scott will certainly ask for a jury trial versus just a judge trial. So also kind of interesting. No jury date has been set. April 7th is the next court date. So I suppose I'll go to that. Let me know if you think I should or not, because the trial is really what I'm focused on. I also want to head up to Canada to cover the election. There's probably a late April election date. So I'm hoping I could cover the election and then be back in May for DOA stuff, because he also has a court date in May. But let me know if you want me to go to that or fly in. But I was thinking I'd meander up to Seattle and go up to Vancouver to cover a lot of that. But let me know what you think should take priority. Obviously, I kind of want to respond to what you guys think is worth my time, because you can't be at two places at once. So yeah, that's the rub. The bail was reiterated: no knives, no weapons, 100 yards away from Scientology churches. The DOA's attorney tried to make a valiant effort to try to remark that he shouldn't have to do that, but at this moment, it's all Scientology buildings. So he has to say 100 yards away from all Scientology buildings. But she tried to abolish that stay away order, unsurprisingly to no avail. But I think we all saw that coming. So, I think in the future, I think in the next court dates, they haven't even set a trial date. So it's going to be a lot of continuances. This motion was all of 1 minute, I believe. So there's going to be a lot more back and forth. But it's interesting at least to see the viewpoint of what a professional attorney thinks about DOA's case. It's interesting to see how she could pontificate on the success and the result of what the case might actually end up with. So that's kind of helpful to have an expert's opinion. And, according to her opinion, things are looking good and sympathetic for DOA. So that's certainly a good thing. And I will be on the ball to cover more. Thanks all for your support. Take care. Bye-bye.